What's up? It's your boy Carcino, and I'm back. And I'm back. And this is the truth behind the TV show All of Us. All of Us. This show was produced by Overbrook Entertainment. A script that was put together by Jada and Will based on their relationship and what they went through being in a blended family. You know, Jada and Will got married. Will already had a marriage coming off this marriage with his wife, and they already had a child together. So, getting involved in this blended family, they thought, well, we went through a lot of trying times trying to, make this work, as Will never wanted to negate his son. Always wanted to make sure his son was incorporated in part of his life. So you have to blend in and play nice with someone who probably doesn't want to play nice with you, which is the ex-wife. So they thought, okay, well, let's make a television show about this. Now, when you make a show based on your life, you want to have somebody there with you that understands everything you are going through. You want to make sure you have somebody there that understands exactly about your life. It's personal. So certain things about you that they're going to need to know if they're trying to portray you or portray the character likeness of your stories. So Will and Jada was behind the creative process behind this Overbrook, production with Jeff Lasseter and everything else. Um, and Jada was really hands on with the ladies as they try to find out who was going to play them in this role. Now, finding out who was going to be Will and Jada was the first step in the process. Will had already found who was playing him, and the Smiths had first right of refusal on who was going to be the main cast. They had the deciding vote. That was negotiated when they was with UPN and getting this deal, that they were going to have final say on the main cast, which is the three characters: the ex-wife and the who was playing Will and Jada and such, just those three. They had the final right of refusal on who was going to represent them on the screen. And definitely Will's ex-wife. Now, even though the story is got different characters' names, they still want people to represent them in the right way because they know that this is their life on the screen. So Dwayne Martin is who Will had before he even put this thing together, and said, Dwayne, you're going to be playing this character. This is the show. We're putting it together for you. And he's like, I'm working to put together my first series, and you're going to be that guy. So Dwayne was holding out, waiting on this to happen. And when they put it together, they had who they were going to put in there to play that role. Now, for casting, Lisa Ray had just did some projects beforehand that that got her some attention, and because of her, boisterous ways, they thought this is somebody who could definitely come on the show and make an impact because she's very, you know, very dominant personality. So they thought her playing the interests of Jada Pinkett's character, this would be the look. So she was supposed to be teamed up as the love interest of Dwayne Martin. But Will and Jada didn't feel like this was ideal or this was the proper fit. So what they did was make a change because Elise Neal became available. Elise Neal had done the Hewleys, you know them from Money Talks, but because of her work with the Hewleys, they was like people already familiar with her in urban households. We need to get a hold of her and get Elise Neal, if we can, get her agent on the phone because this is someone we need to land in this role. And Jada was very adamant in getting Elise Neal, and that was key to keeping the role. I mean, keeping the saintness of the show. So they said, well, we can keep Lisa Ray too, because Will believed in Lisa Ray. Sorry about that. So it only made sense that she would go down that road more than any other road. So the Hewleys ended. They were able to get Elise Neal. They had Lisa Ray playing the ex-wife, and they said, "Oh, this is a great combination." So once this started kicking off and going down this avenue of energy, and the first episode airs with the show, and everything's in place, and it was okay. In some instances, the show. You ever felt like a show was missing something? This show was one of them. This was a show that was missing something. You know, they had other cast members that they came in to try to work out situations with the episodes and the script, and the story is based on Will and Jada's life of a blended family, you know. And some of the storylines just weren't funny. And it just was like Lisa Ray was just being extra for no reason some of the times. And it just was like Dwayne Martin just, you know, it wasn't funny. It was a good idea that didn't know how to land or the comedy and make a series out of it. You know, it was like either Lisa Ray was just being unbearable as a ex-wife who still wanted to be part of her husband's life, who had really no life of her own. I mean, it really painted his ex-wife in a bad light. You know, and so they needed some more comedy on the show. They got Tony Rock to come in to be, you know, to be Dwayne Martin's best friend and add some comedy there. Then they had Elise Neal. They brought in Terry J. Vaughn, so you know her from the Steve Harvey show. She brought in a lot of that flavor, being her best friend and how to deal with the ex-wife, you know, and all that. Then that dynamic started to play up, and then was okay. And for a while, then you know the episodes just weren't great, and I feel bad because the little kid that played the son, he was good. He was hanging in there for a little bit, and you know, it's just you just didn't care about this show. So after the first season, you know, they had a deal for 2 seasons. And coming through the door, Lisa Ray was paid handsomely more, almost 2 times more than what Elise Neal was being paid. Now, they never told us what the pay and not what the salary imbalance was. But after the second season, because they had a deal for 2 seasons, and they had to go into a renegotiation for the rest of it, she was like, I'm out. I'm leaving the show. And they're like, what? She was bitter. She was doing all this work, and y'all paying Lisa Ray all of this money, and I'm not getting any of it. Like, she's doing that much more than me, and I have all this screen time. And it was like she was being minimized on the show. She wasn't being catered to as somebody who really had the television experience and had more urban experience being on television than Lisa Ray at the time. But Lisa Ray has a boyish poor personality, something that they liked. And she had been in all of these magazines modeling, so it really was an agent problem more than anything else. You know, she negotiated a better deal. That's all I can say about that. All I can say is that she negotiated a better deal. So that now that she, negotiated a better deal for herself, she was in a different space. She could do a lot more. She could move to different spots, different places. And Lisa Ray was on the king of the island. She was doing her thing. Then there was some dissension going into season 3. Because going into season 3, UPN was getting bought out by CW. They was finna do a merger, and they were getting bought out, and only a certain amount of the urban shows were going to be taken over to the new network. Now, here's where people think Will and Jada made some calls and decided, no, Will and Jada made an appearance on the show, on the UPN show. It was negotiated that Will and Jada would do that, and they gave the show a chance on the CW because Will and Jada they were the producers of it. So it's like I told you before, this was a decision already in play. A lot of people blame all of us for edging out their favorite show 101, which in case was not the case. This show was already going to be picked up once it got the third season because it had Will and Jada as the producers. There's an opportunity of having Will and Jada show up on an episode, which they did. So this is why you gotta, the business of who's producing what and what could happen for the show. So they're gonna give the show a chance, at least one season, rather than a show that's going down the tubes and retooling itself in 101. Now, like I told you, Reba was already negotiated that they had to take Reba for the 4 years. It was negotiated. So whether who picked it up or not, they had to take that show. No matter what the numbers did, they had to take Reba. It was agreed in the contract. Now, here's the deal. Elise Neal left the show in season 2, after season 2. In season 3, they changed the direction. They said, let's move Lisa Ray in because the house burnt down, and now he's just single. So the whole script has changed. It's a whole new show. Lisa Ray's got all this screen time, and everybody looks at Elise Neal like she was the villain. She had a movie. She went and did Hustle and Flow, where she was nominated for Outstanding Actress and a Golden Globe Award for her performance. She was at the Oscars, but they still looked at it as if she did something wrong. Leaving the show the year she did was probably the best thing she ever done because there was no way she should have been in salary pay, should have been that far behind Lisa Ray. And what they were offering her to come back was probably an insult. They never disclosed the numbers though. Well, the final season, Lisa Ray had gotten married. So the fact that she's gotten married and everything, her and Dwayne had gotten really close on the show. She was cool with Will and all of those guys, and she was marrying one of the, she was the queen and all of this. She brought this into the show. They had delayed tapings because they were waiting for Lisa. This is when they were doing the last season, the one that was on the CW. And she's stressed. She's trying to be a positive, happy person on the show. And the show was just a mess. It wasn't funny. Nobody's really watching it anymore. It changed direction from what the initial show really was. Now it's like, oh, they're going to get back together because now he's separated from Elise Neal. So the show took a different direction of him dating now. And so the show just was all over the place at this time. And Lisa Raids didn't really pull it off. Her acting was not really the problem. Dwayne Martin just isn't funny. And the show just died. It just died on a vine. So when it canceled, a lot of people were like, I didn't really care for that show. So when people had that mentality about it, then no one really too much cared. So you could do whatever you want. So when that attitude is laid down, this is the narrative that comes out of these situations. And then, of course, now you got the Dwayne Martin situation with her and her husband and all that stuff that came after the fact. So now you know. All of us, did you like the show? Did the show interest you a little bit? Did you watch some of the episodes? How did you feel about the show? I really didn't think it was a show for me at all. I just think it missed the mark. Some of the scripts weren't good, and definitely some of the acting was terrible or next to it. Just wasn't a really good show. But you guys, some people liked it, just not me. Anyway, don't forget to follow the playlist. There's a playlist now called The Truth Behind TV Shows. I've made the playlist finally. I stopped being lazy and did it. So you'll be able to click here and watch some of the TV shows and get all the information behind it. All right, I'm out.